Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave, on behalf of every father and every mother who waits for freedom, on behalf of our warriors, and paves the way for a new history.
Hello, Mr. Bionade.
Hello.
So we're starting it. We have a little pre-show segment now. I don't know. You've been a little busy boy. You're over in Ukraine right now. You're actually in Lviv. Is that correct?
Yes. Just arrived this morning. Had a long bus ride from Germany, and now I'm finally in Lviv.
Beautiful. How's beautiful Lviv?
Beautiful Lviv is like always. It's Sunday in the inner city around the opera place. There are on Sunday no cars allowed, or only very little cars. So everyone is out. Everyone is enjoying the old town of Lviv, and quite a nice weather. People are out playing their instruments, singing, making music, enjoying the weather. The kids were playing in the fountain earlier today. You almost wouldn't think a war is going on if you wouldn't know. It's quite a nice feeling. On the other side, I get reports from friends that the situation with electricity is still a little bit troubled. Parts of the city only have electricity for like 6 hours, which is not great. Everyone is adapting. Generators are everywhere around the places, but it seems to be relatively stable today. I didn't hear any generators running yet, so nice to see that the Ukrainians also get sometimes a nice Sunday to relax and enjoy.
Well, that's all good news, man. I think we're just gonna maybe before the show starts, implore our audience to please like the stream. Definitely helps like boost the stream and show it to more people. And definitely subscribe to Tochnyi for great updates like this one from Bionade live on the ground from Ukraine. Bionade, any other stuff you want to share with us live?
Yeah, first.
One more thing. Also subscribe to Andrew Perpetua.
Yeah. Subscribe to Andrew, subscribe to his YouTube channel, subscribe to his Twitter, subscribe to our Twitter and YouTube channel, and also, like you maybe realized, we can't stream on Twitter anymore. They changed some rules. We are not willing to give Elon every month money for having this, appalling Twitter blue. So, please, everyone, if someone doesn't know where to find Tochnyi, share the link to the stream on Twitter. And I hope everyone will come here, assemble, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, thanks, Bionade. You want to let people know what's in store today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we have today our news segment from Joseph, followed up by our German aid to Ukraine segment, the updates, what new stuff was delivered or is planned to be delivered. And after this, we have a discussion and an update with Andrew about the Kursk offensive and everything that more or less relates to this. So, dear listeners, please enjoy it. And remember, we trying to give you all the information we could verify. You may have heard some things we are not talking about because we couldn't verify it or it wasn't geolocated. So we focus on the things we know, and yeah, we can be sure happened.
Okay, well, thank you very much, my friend. Stay safe in Ukraine. We always appreciate you checking in with us.
Yes, thank you very much. If anyone has questions later, I guess there will be a Q&A segment at the end of our show. And I will go now to Lviv and yeah, look for a nice place where I can have a nice cold Ukrainian beer.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and jump into the news. Ukrainian military forces reportedly targeted a Russian-held gas platform in the Black Sea. This was stated by Dmytro Platenchuk, the spokesperson for Ukraine's naval forces. Platenchuk disclosed that the platform was no longer being used for gas production. Instead, they installed technical equipment for intelligence purposes and stationed military personnel on the platform. It had been converted into a base for electronic warfare, particularly for GPS spoofing, a technique that allows misleading GPS signals to disrupt navigation systems. Platenchuk pointed out that the activity could pose a risk to civilian maritime traffic, including ships passing through the grain corridor. He also emphasized that no civilian personnel were present on the platform since it was not serving its original function. The strike on the platform was reportedly a coordinated effort involving Ukrainian coastal missile and artillery forces of the Navy, along with intelligence officers from the Ministry of Defense's main intelligence directorate. The operation allegedly utilized Sea Baby drones, which have a range of around 1,000 kilometers. On August 9th, during a daring raid on the Kinburn Spit, which Erlend briefly mentioned on our last stream, which is currently under Russian occupation, operatives from Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Unit, also known as HUR, eliminated 30 enemy troops and destroyed several armored vehicles. The HUR battle flag was raised in at least one enemy position. The HUR statement mentioning the raid mentioned 6 units of enemy armored vehicles destroyed and around 3 dozen invaders. The amphibious operation involved the Chimera, Stuhna, Paragon, Siberian Battalion, and Terror teams, which are all part of HUR's Timur Special Unit. The raid was conducted with support from the naval forces and in coordination with other elements of Ukraine's security and defense forces. During the mission, Ukrainian soldiers targeted Russian fortifications at positions called Kinburn Fortress, the Seaport, and the Suvorov Monument. They planted the battle flag near the Suvorov Monument. HUR emphasized their commitment to liberating the Spit, along with all of the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. They conducted a similar landing on August 6th on the Tendrivska Split in the northern Black Sea, which also destroyed enemy equipment and fortifications, as well as eliminated Russian military personnel. During the night of August 8th through 9th, near the settlement of Chornomorske in Russian-occupied Korea, a group from Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Unit HUR used Magara 5 drones to destroy a Russian high-speed boat, the KS-701 Tunets class. The operation resulted in damage to 3 enemy vessels, with their types currently being identified, according to a report from HUR. This marks another successful strike on a vessel of this type. Earlier in May, 2 similar Russian boats were destroyed and others were damaged by Ukrainian forces. The KS-701 amphibious transport boats are used by Russian forces for patrolling and logistical operations in Crimean waters. In total, marine drones have successfully hit 18 Russian vessels, 9 of which have been destroyed. HUR also extended their gratitude for all nations who supported the telethon, which organized fundraising for the naval drones. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko ordered reinforcements to be deployed to border areas near Ukraine following reports of several aerial targets being shot down over Belarus on the evening of August 9th. During a morning briefing on August 10th, he claimed the targets were likely drones, describing the incident as a, quote, Ukrainian provocation, and he stated that the Belarusian General Staff has taken measures to secure the country. After the briefing, the defense minister informed journalists that they had ordered an increase in military presence in Gomel and Mozyr to respond to provocations. These areas obviously border Ukraine. Krenin added that various military units were being moved to designated areas and air defense systems as well. The drones were detected in western Belarus. Lukashenko stated that Belarusian air forces were placed on high alert. And the Belarusian Hagen monitoring group reported that Russian UAVs have repeatedly crossed into Belarusian airspace over the summer, but Minsk has largely remained silent on the incidents. However, recently they did begin deploying Su-30 fighter jets in the southern part of the country during Russian attacks. So it seems like maybe they're starting to be more concerned about Russia's use of their airspace for drone attacks. In the early hours of August 9th, Ukrainian defense forces successfully targeted a military airfield in Russia's Lipetsk Oblast, causing significant detonations at ammunition depots. The strike was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces and a source from Ukraine's Security and Defense Forces. The airfield is around 290 kilometers from Ukraine's border. The operation was reportedly carried out by the Security Service of Ukraine in collaboration with the armed forces. The airfield houses numerous fighter jets, helicopters, and warehouses containing guided bombs. Russian sources claim that aircraft were successfully evacuated before the attack, but the sources that the journalists contacted don't agree with that. The data from firms, which shows like fires, confirmed multiple thermal anomalies at the aviation ordnance depots at the base, indicating that the attacks were aimed at the weapon storage areas rather than the aircraft themselves, which is pretty common. The strike reportedly was carried out by drones, and it led to a powerful explosion, causing a series of secondary detonations and a large-scale fire across the facility. The General Staff confirmed the strike, the General Staff of Ukraine. They noted that several ignition sources were observed, and they mentioned that several aircraft were stationed at the field at the time of the incident. And in addition to the Lipetsk airfield strike, Ukrainian defense forces struck anti-aircraft forces in Donetsk. The operation targeted 3 enemy radars associated with S-350 and S-300 defense systems. They recorded that all 3 radars ceased operation after their strikes. So that was operations. Up next, we have stuff related to aid and the economy. The Biden administration announced a new military aid package for Ukraine worth $125 million, according to a Pentagon statement. This is the 63rd aid package provided to Ukraine from the Defense Department since 2021. The latest aid package includes air defense systems, multi-mission radars for detecting and countering enemy artillery, and anti-tank weapons. There's lots of they're topping off a lot of little stuff, javelins, HIMARS, and so forth. We don't need to really get into the details there. In August, Lithuania's Ministry of Defense will provide Ukraine with a military assistance package, which will include short-range air defense systems, among other items. The package is expected to arrive in Ukraine around the end of August. In addition to modern equipment, Lithuania will also be sending some older Soviet kit from its military reserves. The shipment will include 14 M113 personnel carriers, short-range air defense systems, drone jamming systems, 20-ton telescopic loaders, ATVs with spare parts, smoke munitions, and gun parts. On August 7th, Bulgaria's cabinet of ministers announced the country's military plans to train Ukrainian soldiers under the NATO Security Assistance and Training for Ukraine program. NSATU, which is the acronym for the program, was created during the NATO summit held from July 9th through 11th, and the initiative coordinates the delivery of military equipment and the training of forces by NATO partners, and it aims to further bolster Ukraine's defense and security forces and integrate it with NATO. Bulgaria described the decision as a clear signal of its commitment to supporting Ukraine. The statement noted that Bulgaria's contribution is aligned with efforts of other NATO allies. The exact number of troops involved has not been disclosed. They sent 50 troops to a previous mission to train Ukrainian forces, the European Union's Military Assistance Mission, or UMAM. Bulgaria has been providing defense assistance to Ukraine. They're kind of like this unsung hero of military assistance to Ukraine. The country became more transparent in its support after Nikolai Denkov assumed the role of prime minister in June 2023, after which they officially delivered at least 2 military aid packages to Ukraine. But yeah, throughout the war, they've been one of Ukraine's largest undisclosed arms suppliers. During the early stages of the war, it is believed that Bulgaria covertly provided Ukraine with around 1/3 of its ammunition and 40% of its diesel fuel. On August 6th, the EU Council approved a tranche of nearly 4.2 billion in aid for Ukraine under the Ukraine Facility Program. The decision follows the Council's decision that Ukraine had met necessary conditions and implemented reforms outlined in the plan, making the country eligible to receive the funds. The reforms include improvements in public financial management, governance of state-owned enterprises, the business environment, energy sector, and demining efforts. The EU Council emphasized the urgency of dispersing the funds promptly, I should say, and they outlined goals for the country's recovery, reconstruction, and modernization. As of May 2024, the Council determined that the Ukraine plan met the prerequisites for Ukraine to receive so far 50 billion in support through this Ukraine Facility Fund. On August 9th, the UK imposed new sanctions on 4 Belarusian individuals and 3 entities to mark the 4th anniversary of the 2020 presidential election in Belarus. The 2020 election, which was held on August 9th, saw Lukashenko secure his grip on power through electoral fraud and widespread repression. The sanctions target Denis Tolstenkov, Andrei Palchik, and Philip Sturchanka, who are the heads of Belarusian penal colonies where political prisoners and activists are unlawfully detained. Additionally, the UK sanctioned 3 Belarusian defense companies, Stanko Gomel, Nivem, and Russerver Motor. In conjunction with the sanctions, the British government announced the allocation of 2.5 million to support Belarusian human rights and civil society initiatives. The British Foreign Secretary David Lammy stated that they stand with the people of Belarus, etc., etc. Lukashenko, yeah, we all know Lukashenko's a dictator. He violently cheated on his election. And additionally, Canada announced new sanctions against Lukashenko and the Belarus regime, marking the 4th anniversary. The sanctions target Belarusian judges responsible for sentencing democracy advocates in the 2020 demonstrations, as well as individuals involved in military production. Notably, the list includes Nikolai Lukashenko, known as Kolya, who is the son of the Belarusian leader. Canada also imposed sanctions on defense and military companies. Among the targeted entities are the Minsk Electrochemical Plant, the Display Design Bureau, a bunch of Belarusian defense contractors. The United Arab Emirates has barred Russia's shadow fleet, including tankers registered under the flag of Eswatini, which is a landlocked African nation, and they ban all of these boats from accessing their ports. The decision is part of the UAE's efforts to distance itself from vessels involved in transporting Russian oil in violation of sanctions. Bloomberg reports that the UAE had already restricted access to its reports for tankers flying the flag of Cameroon, another nation whose registered vessels have been implicated in the transportation of oil to circumvent international sanctions. Notably, no ships sailed under the Eswatini flag in 2023, but by 2024, 26 vessels, mostly oil tankers, suddenly appeared under the flag, despite Eswatini lacking a coastline. Ownership of these 16 ships remains unclear, although some have been linked to transporting oil from Russia and Iran. This is additional to this story. Additionally, Western insurance companies have provided coverage for 10 oil tankers transporting Russian oil to Asia. This comes despite the G7 imposed price cap restrictions aimed at limiting Russia's ability to fund their war. 5 insurance companies, including American Club, West of England, and Norway's Guard, have insured the tankers. Notably, American Club and West of England insured vessels which loaded oil from the Russian company Rosneft in the Baltic and sailed to China. Although Russia has forbidden its companies from adhering to the price cap, it purportedly sells its oil from the Urals at around $79 per barrel in Baltic ports. American Club claimed it did not have access to oil pricing information for insuring the tanker, while Guard mentioned it relied on price cap confirmations from additional data sources. Both insurers stated that they depend on attestation letters from trade participants, ensuring that all activities were legal and in compliance with Western sanctions. That sounds like the honor system to me. They also sought guidance from the International Group of P&I Clubs. This is insurance agency, which provides insurance for 90% of the world's fleets to ensure adherence to the restrictions. I mean, it sounds like they're not adhering to the restrictions to me, so I don't really understand what what that means. The Ministry of Energy does not anticipate significant power outages in Ukraine in the coming days, according to the Deputy Minister Svetlana Hrinchuk, who spoke during a national telethon. Hrinchuk acknowledged that the current situation is challenging, but there are efforts ongoing to restore and enhance the power system's capacity. She mentioned that the energy sector has stabilized recently, partially due to the completion of scheduled repairs at nuclear units, which have adhered to protocols and safety standards. However, Hrinchuk cautioned that the situation remains fluid and could change depending on potential enemy attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. So, good news there. I remember mentioning like a couple months ago that they had to do some maintenance on some nuclear facilities and that this would result in a real crunch for power. So, it looks like that rang true, or it turned out to be true. On August 9th, Ukraine's finance ministry announced the terms for exchanging old bonds with newly issued securities, initiating the process of restructuring the country's external debt on Eurobonds. The move follows an agreement reached in late July with some creditors to restructure approximately 23 billion US dollars in external debt. Initially, Ukraine secured an arrangement with creditors at the start of the full-scale invasion to defer payments due to the economic strain caused by the war. The payment freeze expired on August 1st, or at least was set to. Bondholders of Ukraine's sovereign debt are now invited to participate in the exchange for new securities, as detailed in a statement listed on the London Stock Exchange. The offer extends to holders of sovereign bonds and those guaranteed by Ukravtodor, which is the state agency responsible for Ukrainian roads. The restructuring process is expected to be finalized around August 27th. Creditors who agree to the terms by the 23rd will receive additional payments. However, a grace period for one of the government's Eurobonds expires on August 10th, and a missed payment could result in default and, like last time, like a downgrade in their credit rating and their ability to get new credit. On July 18th, the Ukrainian parliament approved a bill allowing the government to suspend all payments on external public debt until October 1st. And the finance minister emphasized that completing the restructuring would facilitate Ukraine's return to the financial markets as soon as their security situation improves, which will result in funding the country's reconstruction. Mounting pressures on key sectors driven by the Kremlin's war in Ukraine are likely to slow down the Russian economy, according to a new report from Bloomberg. According to this report, labor resources are nearly depleted, with intense competition between military and business for recruits, and this is expected to hamper growth in defense-related industries. Construction and banking, which were previously insulated, are now under strain due to soaring interest rates, and most state-subsidized mortgage programs ended last month. Economists cited that they predicted Russia's GDP to have grown by around 4% in the second quarter, but the growth is expected to slow significantly for the remainder of the year, dropping to around 2%. An economic expert, Alex Isakov, suggested that the estimate likely represents the final surge of growth before the Russian economy begins to cool down. And he forecasts that growth will decelerate around 2% in the second half and then finally slow to about 0.5%. Since the full-scale invasion, the Russian government has significantly increased spending, directing funds towards the military and defense sectors and promoting insulation of economic businesses from the impact of sanctions. The Bank of Russia governor noted that the surge in spending has led to economic overheating, not seen since the 2008 financial crisis, and that has been driven by a sharp rise in domestic demand. Unemployment in Russia has reached a historic low of 2.4%, which is the lowest among like a developed country. Businesses are now facing a significant labor shortage, with over 2 million workers needed to meet that demand. So next topic is international relations. Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, recently announced the conclusion of his fourth tour across Africa. He visited Malawi, Zambia, and Mauritius during the tour, and he emphasized the importance of consistent engagement with African nations. He shared on social media that the trip involved extensive travel and high-level meetings aimed at increasing support for Ukraine. The tour led to significant outcomes, including the signing of several agreements. Specifically, 3 agreements were finalized: 2 memorandums on political consultations with Malawi and Zambia, and a visa-free travel agreement with Mauritius. In addition, 2 more agreements are currently being prepared, focusing on avoiding double taxation and promoting mutual investment with Mauritius. The United States is actively engaging with Ukraine to better understand the recent developments in Russia's Kursk region, according to officials. John Kirby, the Strategic Communications Director for the White House National Security Council, confirmed that the U.S. is in communication with Ukrainian officials to, quote, clarify their objectives and strategy concerning the situation. Kirby avoided providing specific details about events, stating that the U.S. would wait until discussions with Ukraine had concluded and they have a clear understanding before making public statements. He also pointed out that Ukraine's actions in Kursk are not a violation of U.S. restrictions. According to Kirby, Ukraine is operating in areas where the U.S. had previously given approval for the use of such weapons. The primary goal remains to support Ukraine in its defense efforts, and the U.S. will continue to evaluate the situation based on Ukraine's input. I should mention, though, that they also made another statement that was like, they can strike Russian territory, just not like deep strikes or something to that effect. So still a little bit of like squirreliness coming from their statements, but overall they've been relatively like indifferent or supportive, whatever, however you want to call it, of the Kursk invasion. Japan and Ukraine have recently formalized an agreement to work together on judicial reforms and anti-corruption initiatives, and this marks a significant step forward in bilateral relations. This was confirmed by Japan's Justice Minister Ryuji Koizumi's visit, which occurred on August 5th, where he and Ukraine's Justice Minister signed a memorandum of understanding. Since Russia's full-scale invasion began, Japan has provided $12 billion in US dollars in aid to Ukraine, $4.5 billion this year. The newly signed memorandum outlines plans for collaboration between the two countries' justice ministries, focused on combating corruption, reforming the judicial system, and enhancing judicial institutions through targeted personnel training. According to a Japanese judicial official, these efforts are expected to improve transparency in Ukraine's judicial system, which would create a more favorable environment for Japanese businesses. During his visit, Koizumi also visited the War Memorial in Bucha and inspected areas near Kyiv that have been impacted by Russia's attacks. That was all broadcast. Russia's telecommunications director, Roskomnadzor, announced on August 9th that it had blocked the Signal messaging app, citing violations of Russian law. The app, which is known for its secure and encrypted messaging, was accused by Russian authorities of being used for terrorist and extremist purposes. Users in Russia reported issues with Signal on the evening of August 8th, with the app becoming inaccessible without the use of VPN or other tools to bypass it. The disruption affected users across several regions, including Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other republics. In addition to blocking Signal, there are reports that they may be preparing to block WhatsApp in the coming months. The move is allegedly linked to the development of a domestic alternative by the Russian IT company VKontakte. Furthermore, there have been rumors about the plans to block YouTube in Russia, and there have been claims that YouTube has been completely down since August 8th. I should also mention, I saw reports that VKontakte had released their messaging app on the App Store, but it had gotten taken down kind of mysteriously. So, they're definitely almost ready to deploy this indigenous contact app, but it appears that there's been some hiccups in that. All these actions are part of a broader crackdown on media and internet freedom in Russia, where platforms like YouTube are seen as free spaces of expression and access to information. And the Kremlin's attempts to control information have intensified, and the government targets any content that challenges their official narrative. And they fined companies like Google $50 million for not removing content that the Russian government deems harmful to its armed forces. Russia is set to receive a significant shipment of Fath-360 and other ballistic missiles from Iran, following an agreement signed between the two nations in December. According to intelligence sources, the report indicates that Russian military personnel are currently undergoing training on the ballistic missile systems in Iran. Iran and Russia have strengthened their political and military ties since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Iran has provided Russia with thousands of kamikaze drones to support its military efforts, and reports from February suggest that Iran had supplied Moscow with considerable surface-to-air ballistic missiles. The Fath-360 missiles have a range of 120 kilometers and carry a warhead of 150 kilograms. The exact timing of the transfer hasn't been disclosed, but they believe that it will occur imminently. In response to a potential arms transfer, the U.S. Security Council spokesperson warned that they are prepared to swiftly respond to any transfers and view this as a significant escalation of Iran's support for Russia's war in Ukraine. And they've cautioned about the growing security collaboration between Russia and Iran. And my last story for this week, the United Nations has reported that more than 95% of Ukrainian prisoners of war held by Russia have been subjected by some form of torture. This disturbing finding was shared by Danielle Bell, who's the head of the mission for the United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine. And he made an interview with the Dutch TV channel NOS. Bell described the brutal treatment that Ukrainian POWs endure from the moment they are interrogated. They are reportedly beaten with metal rods and sticks, stripped naked, and subjected to severe electric shocks. Bell has had a 20-year career in the UN and emphasized that this level of abuse is the most horrific that she has ever encountered, characterizing it clearly as a war crime. The information about the torture of Ukrainian POWs is primarily obtained through interviews conducted after their release from Russian captivity. In contrast, the UN monitoring mission has direct access to Russian POWs held in Ukraine and has been able to assess their detention conditions. Bell noted that while there were some issues at the start of the war, conditions in Ukrainian camps and temporary prisons comply with international humanitarian law. So that is the conclusion of my news report for this week. We will now go to our prepared segment for German aid to Ukraine.
Hey guys, sadly this week I can't be here with you, so I made a little pre-recorded segment. I promise next week I will attend the stream in person again. This week I have just one item to report. The Ukrainian MOD has contracted Rheinmetall for the delivery of 8 forward surgical team stations to the AFU. The order, which is worth a medium double-digit million euro sum, gets paid by the German government. The delivery is scheduled from 2024 to 2026. For transporting each rescue unit, a mobile component consisting of 3 MAN trucks, including trailers, is also included in each delivery. The forward surgical team stations are intended for damage control surgery. They enable life-saving procedure to be carried out quickly on badly wounded soldiers close to the front line. They consist of 6 containers each, 5 of which are connected to each other via an operation and have a reception, respectively a triage area, an X-ray shelter, a surgery preparation, and a surgery shelter, as well as an intensive care unit. The support container with power generator and water tanks can keep the system in service independently for at least 48 hours. Already in 2023, the German government paid the delivery of 2 forward surgical team stations to the AFU. The delivery was carried out at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. And for the video of the week, a soon-to-be tradition initiated by Joseph and myself, today I would like to show you 2 videos of German-delivered V-1MC mine-clearing tanks, which Ukraine is currently using in the offensive in the Kursk region. As of today, Germany has delivered 46 of them to Ukraine, with a further 4 of them still being pledged. And that's all I had for you this week.
Thanks to Germany, to Ukraine for that. So that leaves us with our final thing that we've sort of been putting off because it's so difficult right now, which is discussing the current Kursk incursion or invasion or raid, whatever we want to call it. We've left that unenviable task, of course, to our good friend Erlend, who did his darndest to compile a report for us. But at a certain point, I think he just said, I need Andrew's help. And he contacted Andrew. Yeah. So we've got a nice little discussion between, I think, Andrew and Erlend. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Erlend.
Yeah, I see that 122 has logged on. I hope he managed. Can you hear us, 122? Okay, I think he has some trouble connecting, but he's trying. So he and Andrew might be with us both. That would be absolutely great. Yeah, I mean this offensive has taken its toll on basically everyone that is observing this war closely. And I know that Andrew has worked through the night and he had a little nap. and so I think that we're gonna try and keep it short. But yeah, on August 6th, Monday, as most of you know, Ukraine entered into Kursk, and since then it's been a wild few days. I guess I'm gonna try and see if Andrew is with us, because I wrote him a DM. Are you here, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you prefer that I share the map, or do you want to try and share it?
It's probably better that I share it.
Yeah.
I just have to open it first.
Well,
let's see. Let's try to set this up so it works right.
but yeah, I mean, the latest news that I've read, I'm not sure if it's true, is that Ukraine is trying to. By the way, do people see this in the right? Yeah, it should be in the correct. Is it mirrored? If chat can give us a heads up if it's mirrored.
We can see the map if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
But is it mirrored?
Yeah, I'll check. Yeah, because we have this.
It's mirrored for. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mirrored for us, but probably not for YouTube.
It's also complicated.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna sit here and wait for the mirrored question to be answered. But
Chris says yes.
it is mirrored.
Can we get one
Okay.
more yes in chat that it's mirrored? If it is in fact mirrored.
Let's
yeah, it's mirrored, man.
let's do the
Okay, we're
let me figure out how to mirror it back.
Anyways,
Just
there's
give
a
me
lot
second.
of quite a crucial moment right now for this offensive, and Ukraine had a lot of success in the first few days, breaking through the lines, which weren't very. The Russians didn't really have a lot of defenses here, and there's also been reports of Akhmat forces, or basically Chechens, running away. And Ukraine managed to exploit this in the first few days of the offensive. And now, though, Ukraine is entering into a new phase of this offensive, which is a lot more crucial, because the time that they can utilize to exploit enemy weaknesses and unpreparedness is running out very quickly. And I think we should focus on that topic now today.
Okay, I fixed the mirrored problem.
Yep.
What was the topic you wanted to talk about? The speed?
Yeah, I mean the speed in which the offensive happened the last few days, and then of course the fact that time is kind of running out now.
Okay, so basically, we now have confirmation that on the 6th, Ukraine reached Sucha. So on the first day they reached Sucha. Prior to today, I'm not sure it was actually confirmed whether it was true or not. So since then, they have they captured the western side of the town, city, whatever it is. They captured the western side. In part of capturing that, they were trying to wrap around and kind of encircle it, and that was part of how they captured it to begin with. This little town of Myrnia, this has proven to be like a really critical position that's gone back and forth a few times. I think Ukraine has captured it twice, and each time they capture it, they get kicked out again. But Ukraine really needs to capture this because Russia still has resistance here. I kind of have it mapped this way. I'm not sure how far west the resistance is. Some say that they're in the city. Most of the better sources I see say that they're all to the east of the river, so they'd be like here-ish. But anyways, they have forces here, and this is kind of like the one of the main strong points that Russia still has in this area, and the strong point Myrna to the north of it is really important because if Ukraine could capture that, they could potentially move down the highway and cut off this this force here, which would make them either retreat or get surrounded and destroyed. So this Myrna town is super important. It's critically important that Ukraine really has to capture and hold it and keep going east. And they have not been able to do that, to my knowledge. To the north,
they also need to give go a little bit more east, don't they, to make sure that they don't have the Russians basically on the edge of the settlement, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. If you capture this town, you'd be able to control the highway, and I don't think Russia would be able to be on the edge of Sudzha anymore. They would have to leave. And that's why they keep fighting over the town. It's going back and forth a few times. And from what I've heard, like, and it's all kind of based on rumors. It's really hard to confirm any of it. But from what I've heard, this Russian force has taken pretty significant casualties in their counterattacks in Demyrna. So they're degrading over time. And that might be kind of what Ukraine is going for, is to degrade them and to eventually break them. Now to the north, Russia has like another strong point up here, which is full of. This is like another battalion and has been getting reinforced with more troops who are coming down this road up here. And then all the way to the west is Kuryanevo, which is the other strong point, where there's a river here, and Russia controls one side of the river, and Ukraine is attacking from the other side of the river, and Ukraine wants to cross the river and push Russia out. So these are kind of going into today. These were the three strong points that Russia had. It's basically 3 battalions that are holding back the Ukrainian advance at this point. And it seems that Ukraine they're still attacking, but it seems that they're mostly focusing on digging in and solidifying all of these positions that they've captured. And you'd suspect that after maybe a day or two of doing that, they would begin advancing again, because they're bringing in more forces, they're bringing in more logistics. They're using really large drone strikes. So, like in Kuryanevo, today there was a report that Ukraine is just using enormous numbers of drones to strike the town in conjunction with their infantry assaults into the southern portion down here. Well, anyway, there's rumors that they control this whole southern part, and they're trying to cross the river. If you zoom in, you can see the river is kind of like this little snaky thing right here, and there's these bridges that cross it. So there's one bridge there and one bridge here, and these 2 bridges are kind of the issue at the moment. So
yeah, they are choke points, and it's not somewhere you really want to just walk over when the enemy is entrenched on the other side.
Yeah.
I read some reports that Ukraine is trying to circumvent that little lake or whatever you have over there, just north of the bridges.
Yeah. They've been trying to move kind of north into Kremenoy and Olkivka. They're trying to move north and around, but Russia has enough forces here to hold them back. So I believe like the forces here, I think Ukraine is attacking with like it's like 150 or so attacking Kuryanevo, and probably like another 100 attacking these towns over here. So that's kind of like roughly the numbers we're talking about. Yeah, One interesting thing to me is that Ukraine is recovering a lot of their vehicles. I just a moment ago saw that they had recovered the Martyrs that had been damaged by Lancets the other day, and on like the first day we had their Cougars got hit by an Iskander, and the following day they had recovered those. So it seems that Ukraine is doing a pretty good job recovering their losses, which is just interesting to me that they would so rapidly. I mean, it makes sense. Like obviously, that's the ideal to rapidly get stuff, but it also shows that Russia probably doesn't have drones, and it's probably because of electronic warfare that
Or
they're
at
not
least
able to stop these recoveries.
at least they're limited in their the space they can fly the drones. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, can we have a mic check from 122?
Mic check.
Yeah, you're good. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Now that I'm in the stream finally, the proper way.
Cool. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you because it's now the 6th day of this offensive, and you have some experience with maneuver warfare. And normally, in this kind of a stage of an exploitation phase that is kind of probably going towards an end, what are your kind of key things that needs to be taken into consideration, and what are the main elements that needs to be focused on?
Well, the main elements that you want to do now that you don't have the element of surprise is to secure certain points that are key strategic points to hold, of course, as Andrew was speaking about, but also set up maybe QRFs in certain regions to be able to hold these points successfully with a minimal force. You can utilize your maneuver capabilities with these QRFs, so that you can cover a lot of ground to where you need to place your forces. So that's probably what Ukraine needs to
Quick
be.
response force. That's what that means?
Yeah, quick
Okay.
response force. It's basically that you have strongholds on the where the front is, but situated a bit back, you have not a bastion, but you have a larger force that is ready to, at a call notice from the commander, get sent to that position. And when they're done reinforcing, they can go back to this point and just keep doing that. And in that way, the Russians do have to push at all points at all time to keep everyone occupied. This is like you try to utilize your numbers to keep an even number with the Russians where they are attacking. That's basically it. So that is a key element for them now to set up, probably, if their objective is to hold this land, I would say, because the Russians will deploy forces, and Russia do have enough numbers to actually counterattack and put pressure on the Ukrainians. So that is what I would say is very crucial now, because the element of surprise is gone. Russians are probably digging frantically in a lot of places, and getting prepared to get encircled in some areas. And when they are ready, they can still put up a real good fight.
Yeah. So the situation Ukraine has right now is very much a salient situation where they've taken control over some settlements, but they're kind of squeezed in from both sides. And on the long run, this is not something that is very ideal. And we've seen this before somewhere in the south, and I don't want to even mention it. Do you think that it's important for Ukraine to widen the entry points of to the salient now and just get rid of the salient situation?
Yes, they need to consolidate a lot of forces and close some gaps. For example, you need to go to Koronevo, probably take that and close the salient to further west, and also what you need to be looking at are the roads. Like Koronevo is the first stop, but ideally you would like to cut up to Rilsk, because if you look at Rilsk, you have a lot of roads intersecting into Rilsk. If you can cut that off, you have a very good stronghold, making it harder for the Russians to reinforce and control the environment. But in general, first of all, for Ukrainians to have a more stabilized situation, they need to cut off. If you look to the slightly left of the bottom of the Ukrainian Kursk invasion, there's a small Russian salient bulging out there. If they can cut that off and continue out west, that would be a good thing for them. But I would say, or hope, that one of the objectives for the Ukrainians is to reach Rilsk and cut it off. Or at least Koronevo, because then the Russian troops in the I always you mock me for not saying the name Erlend, but Tetikino, or the small village that is a stronghold.
Tetkino. It's a little bit.
Sorry.
west.
Yeah, sorry. Further east, I can't see on the map right now. If you look at where the Surche is straight out to the west. Far to the west, there's a small bulge to like southwest. Not down there, sorry. Go up again, and yeah, it's much easier if I maybe send you the coordinates or something.
Yeah, I know what you were talking about.
Yeah, but anyways, if you cut up the roads, down to those outposts that are in. On the border with Ukraine, further to the west of where they're now controlling. Yet, so they will automatically get in a situation where they need to pull back. So you actually don't need to enter here and fight these positions. If you go to Rilsk and control that, those positions will become untenable for the Russians. Or even if you threaten Rilsk, it will be a real questions to those Russians. Okay, do we stay or do we just give up and run for it? Because they will see that they are about to be cut off from supplies. So yeah, I think
if you threaten or actually control Rilsk, you have that main road going towards Kyiv or whatever it's called in Ukraine, to the west, so where you have the icons. So if you actually not necessarily control Rilsk, but at least have most of the roads under fire control, these positions west of Rilsk are really, really difficult to hold for on a long term as well.
Yeah.
But so
we should keep in mind that Ukraine has only put a small fraction of their forces in the combat. The vast majority are in reserve.
Do you think that's a plan that they want to, a situation they want to keep, or do you mean in the fact that they actually feel that they have more playroom?
I think we're going to see multiple other areas that they're going to invade Russia.
Do you have any suspicions of where, or do you rather want to keep that to yourself?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that the Russians have been scared of for a long time. Well before any of this happened, the Russians have been terrified that they would that Ukraine would attack here through what's the name of this town? Whatever. Anyway, they're terrified that they're going to launch right here. This is right on. It's like between Belgorod and Kursk, right here. They've been terrified, and they've been writing about that for months and months and months. I don't know. It seems to me that it is a place that would make sense to attack, although that is probably a reason you wouldn't attack there. But it would support the eastern flank of everything going on.
The only question mark I have to this is that it's relatively close to where they've gone into Kursk. So what you're basically doing is you're sending more troops into an area that is about to get saturated with Russian forces, and maybe eventually their aviation might come online as well. We don't know that at the moment. Ukraine seem to be in control of that, but that can change eventually. So that's one of the big question marks for me, at least. If you want to put more troops into that position instead of using them to hold the area that you have right now. But I do agree with you. It's not a bad thing to open up more points. It's just if I would have been them, but this is just me armchair generaling, I wouldn't do it that close. But I trust in the armed forces of Ukraine that they have a good plan.
So we know that Ukraine, at least to some capacity, have surveillance drone flying over this area, and one of the reasons why we kind of can confirm that is the strike that was on the convoy. Was it 3 days ago? Just outside Rylsk.
Yep.
And that's basically confirmed to be a GMLRS strike, M30. So the tungsten shrapnel warhead. And that's a political sign, which I think is very, very important. Do we have any indications that there have been any more GMLRS strikes in this offensive?
I don't think so, to be honest. Well, there may have. Well, there. Okay, so there were 2 other convoys destroyed. And I'm not exactly sure how either of them were destroyed, but I do know that there were 2 other convoys destroyed. So,
yeah. But that's from Russian reports, and we don't really have footage of it, right?
No, we don't have footage.
No. And then with this convoy at Rylsk, there was also a leak from the Ukrainians, which is kind of an important thing because they got really in big trouble, the channel that leaked it. And I mean, it's one of the elements that is really, really important in this whole offensive, is that Ukraine has managed to keep the element of surprise and also the operational security very, very tight. There's, though, at least there are some more pictures coming out, especially today. There was a picture of the Georgian Legion flag next to the 2 burnt out tanks on the heavy transport vehicles, which confirms that the Georgian Legion is there. I suspect that that's one of the forces they've brought in to consolidate and dig into some positions.
But as you and I were discussing, Erlend, a bit yesterday, is that you have this stage that Ukraine has prepared immaculately, what it seems like, for this incursion. And they probably have plan and a secondary plan. But as we, the time goes on, probably some objectives are not met and some are met, and eventually you're starting to run out of those pre-planned situations, and you go into what's the unknown. How is Russia going to respond in certain areas? And that is going to be the very critical part when warfare goes from planned to improvised. That goes both ways, of course, but it's a much more tricky situation where we might see much harder fighting.
Also, there is an element which is very important, as Ukraine hopefully have determined some minimum goals or operational goals that have to be achieved for this operation to be continuing. And we don't know, of course, what those operational goals are. I assume that securing the eastern flank of Sucha and maybe Koronevo are amongst them. It would be natural, at least. The really, really crucial part is, what if those goals are not reached or not in the time frame that Ukraine has determined that has to be reached? Or what will they do then? That's kind of a question mark that I want to bring up. Of course, it's kind of an armchair general thing to then discuss what they should do, but those are kind of really crucial, important points that is going to be very stressed right now for the Ukrainians.
I just hope they respect their goals and they respect their what do you call it, actions upon objectives not met or met, and not maybe overinvest and just stick to the plan, and not get too carried away with the improvised part.
Yep, I totally agree.
Alan, I have a sort of related question, right? So, I mean, when this started, obviously we still don't have a ton of information, but we had so little information. I think, like, we all at the time, at least in my recollection, thought this was not going to be as big as it has turned out to be. And I think Andrew has implied it's even bigger than what we've seen already. So, like, have we learned more about, like, I don't know, like, what this is and like what the motivation might be, do you think, based on the kind of actions on the ground in the last few days? Or do you think it's still a bit unclear as to kind of like the why and the how and all that?
Well, at least I'm pretty sure that these theories of going towards the nuclear power plant is not necessarily one of the goals. I think maybe threatening it and putting it under stress and pressure might be one of the plans that they have put out, but at least it doesn't seem like that's their main goal. They haven't been really pushing really hard north as far as or northeast as far as I've understood. They did do a major push there, but not. There's a few kilometers left, to be fair. Yeah, it's essentially double the. Yeah.
What I think we can say is not a raid. At least it is something else. What it is, I think it's a only the Ukrainian command can tell what it is and what it's going to result in. But from what Erlend and I speculated when they went into Belgorod the previous times, is when you do these kind of incursions, it also allows you to insert a lot of specialists as well. When this chaos ensues and everyone's running, civilians and everyone else, is also a good time to put in other resources that are not going to be holding land, that they're going to work as target identifiers and everything else, and resistance movement, sending in supplies. We've seen some to be so claimed Kursk independent forces, you want to call them that, or resistance. They claim they received weapons. Is also one of those things, maybe to supply resistant movements as well. So I think it's a multifaceted operation as well, and what it is, I think only time will tell, actually.
Yeah, and these are all things that we suspect, and I think that post that they put was mostly psyop, but of course that's gonna put FSB under quite some stress. Gonna have to look for these guys, even if they don't exist. And with an operation like this, you want to have a lot of operational goals. And I'm sure that the Ukrainians have many reasons for doing this. And time will tell, like 122 says, what their main goal is, or what their main goals are. I don't really want to speculate really why they're doing it, to be honest. But one thing that is for certain is that they've exploited weaknesses in the Russian defenses, which are not present in other places at the front line. And exploiting some possibilities is a tactic or a strategy that is very important when you're limited on resources. And Ukraine is kind of battling time with their resources constantly.
Well, I just want to say something about that.
Yeah.
Because, like, Ukraine attacked one point where Russia was weak, right? But let's kind of zoom out, and we can say Russia's weak here, and they're weak here, and they're weak here, and they're weak here, and they're weak here, and you can keep going. There's thousands of kilometers of weakness in Russia. They're weak here too, because they're not defending any of it, because all their forces are in Donetsk. So Russia is completely unprepared for any attack into Russia. And this is a little tiny piece of Russia that Ukraine is attacking. And there's all the rest of it. So if Russia actually wants to defend itself, it's going to take a tremendous amount of resources. Or Ukraine can just do this somewhere else.
And if they don't defend it, I'm sure they're going to do it again somewhere else. At least we should assume they would.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the most plausible reasons for this to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the most sense. I think also, just if we can at least say that President Zelensky made a statement about this. Again, I think Erlend's totally right that there's lots of operational goals, there's lots of motivations. It's too simplistic to simply say this is why. But I think Zelensky said kind of in passing, and I wouldn't, he's not the general on the ground, but that basically that it's important that there was a perception growing that like Ukraine was slowly losing the war, both like kind of internally among the population in Ukraine and among the Western partners. And not that Ukraine is doing badly or something, but that like there's just defending constantly and like very slowly losing land, and that they wanted to change that narrative, right? So I think that that's definitely a part of this as well. But I think what you guys said before, the fact that Russia needs to be punished for not defending large portions of its border and forcing Ukraine to do so, right? That's pretty much, I think, the main reason here. But I just wanted to point out that the one statement I've heard from the Ukrainian government, there might have been more, but was sort of about like kind of the morale and the information side of this. So I thought that was important.
There are some breaking news.
Oh dear God.
That is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, according to several sources. I don't know what to say about this, but I guess this is a crazy response from the Russians, isn't it?
Anything to get the news away from Russia's humiliation in Kursk. Is there anything to the Belgorod stuff? I know there was a geolocated incursion into a small part of Belgorod. Is there kind of is that worth discussing, or was it not that big?
I would say that was a photo op. At least that's what the reports.
Yeah, it makes sense because it kind of appeared in a vacuum, right? We didn't see like other stuff accompanying it like we did with the Kursk stuff.
Yeah. Andrew, do you have any comments on the little photo op in Belgorod?
Oh, that was just like a DRG. They apparently went in. They like detained, kidnapped, whatever word you want to use, a guy or two guys or whatever. They like took a photograph, and then they released the two guys and left.
So maybe an effort to like convince Russia that there's an attack coming from Belgorod too, but not really, right? Like a fake out.
I don't really see the purpose of it because everybody knew it was fake the second it came out. So whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I assume there's going to be more of these things. Ukraine should, at least.
I think they're just trying to show Russia, like, your border is poopy. Maybe you should defend it. Maybe you should, put 100,000 guys there to defend your border. What do you think? You take like 100,000 out of Donetsk and put them over there. See what happens.
By the way, Thank You Theory has apparently the Russians are just burning rubber tires or something.
That's what they say. They say they put a pile of tires into the cooling tower and lit them on fire.
Why?
It's the Russians.
Yeah, true.
They're trying to make some scandal. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrei Yermak made a comment. He said, Enerhodar, we note from Nikopol that the Russian occupiers started a fire in the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Currently, the radiation indicators are normal, but as long as the Russian terrorists retain control over the nuclear plant, the situation is not and cannot be normal. From the first day of the seizure of the plant, Russia has been using it purely for blackmailing both Ukraine and the whole of Europe and the whole of the world. We're waiting for the reaction of the world. We're waiting for the reaction of the IAEA. Russia should be held responsible for this. Only Ukraine can have control over the nuclear station to guarantee the normality and complete security.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. Do we have any questions? I don't really want to keep Andrew from the work that is being done right now, so too much. So
I think it really speaks for itself. Like whenever Russia resorts to these crazy nuclear threats like this and these like terroristic, like, yeah, we'll do it, we're crazy. Whenever they talk like that, it means they're losing so bad. They have no other thing they can possibly say. They can't even convince themselves that they're mighty at the moment. And so they've hit their paranoia mode where they're just like, we'll do it, man. Like I think that's kind of how crazy this offensive has made them. I don't know. I guess like just very briefly, if we can talk a little bit about kind of the like information side. I think that morale seems super high on the Ukrainian side. Like, you know, obviously the Ukrainian civilians are just cheering this on. It seems like, you know, I don't have a special line to the Ukrainian military, but all indications are morale's real high in the military right now as a result of this. And on the Russian side, I mean, we've seen a bunch of we literally saw Russians saying no panic, which is always magnificent. We saw, as Andrew said, kind of like Russians talking about like Ukrainian drone swarms, just like, you know, like overwhelming their positions. So that basically I would just describe the information environment the same as last week. Or the same as our earlier stream, just continuous panic on the Russian side and high morale on the Ukrainian side. Would you guys have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And then when the Russian authorities first say like no panic, like this is going to be is already under control, and then they 1 day later they declare a state of emergency in Kursk, and now there's like 85,000 people evacuated according to Russian authorities in Kursk Oblast, and most of them have been just shipped into Kursk. I can imagine that this is not something that the Russians expected, and the Russian civil society is going to react to this in some way or form. I'm not sure if it's going to be anything that is going to have political impacts in Russia, but there's going to be at least some more civil, not necessarily upheaval, but more discussion about, hey, actually the state is actually not really what we thought it was, or they don't actually have the control that they say on television, because this is when you actually really can't hide the truth from even the most brainwashed people who just watch Russia Din and swallow everything, right?
Yeah.
One thing to say, that the thing I read was not from Andrei Yermak. It was actually written by Zelensky.
Okay.
And another point is that today, Ukraine captured a bunch of POWs in Kursk. And among the POWs were a bunch of Akhmat. And the Akhmat were, they say that they didn't resist at all. And they basically just walked towards the Ukrainians to immediately surrender under the pretense that Kadyrov pays very handsomely for to get back his men, basically. So they know that they'll return home pretty quickly because they usually get the Kadyrov people first. So the Kadyrov surrendering is interesting for two reasons. First, they're usually way in the rear. They're usually not in a position to surrender, and having them surrender is interesting. And second, it does not bode well for morale, for the Russian morale, to have Akhmat people just like surrendering. Oh boy.
Yeah, I've read some reports from other Russian military bloggers where they're basically like, yeah, you have these Akhmat who are like special forces. They have the special forces designation from the Russian Federation, but when the Ukrainians come, they run like sheep, and we can see them driving civilian cars in civilian attire from the battlefield, and it's going all over Ukrainian Telegram, and basically saying that these people are not the warriors that they claim to be. So the Russian mill bloggers, at least some of them, are really angry at the Chechens. Yep. I think this is for now, as it stands now, huge morale boost for Ukraine, and definitely causing some issues in the in the Russian media space.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Do we
have
have?
an
go ahead.
I have an Akhmat meme that was going around the Russian Telegram today. So this is
So that's
the Russian Telegram.
Kadyrov and Russian.
That's a really good one. Yeah. Okay.
Do we have any questions we want to hit in chat?
Well, Calendon asks for Andrew, do you think Dave will continue with further advancement or dig in?
I think they're digging in, and then they're going to advance more. I don't think they're done. They have so many forces in reserve that it's like hard for me to imagine they're not going to keep going. Especially given how few Russian forces are around. Like, people are really overplaying the Russian forces right now, because Russia is like, they have like 3 battalions. it's behind that, it's like some conscripts who have never been in combat before. Like, the Russian situation is actually like really critically bad, and I feel like people are like overplaying it because they like want to think Russia's this super powerful country all the time, but they're in a really bad spot, and I don't want to just gloss over that.
I think maybe 122 can give some comments to this as well, but it's not an easy feat to bring in even a battalion-sized element and set them up for combat. It's not something you do in just 12 hours. What do you think about that, 122?
No, it definitely takes more time than that, and also you have if you're gonna bring reinforcements in and put them in, it's gonna be also a what is called a congested space as well. If you want to continue doing maneuver warfare and act fast, you also need space to do that. So it's also one of those things, and you also need to keep everyone supplied, and it's also one thing, you can get too thin or you can get too dense, so you want that sweet spot in between as well. So they need to be very, as I said before, they need to have clear objectives, and they need to stick to their what do you want to call it, golden points, when to stay or not. But as I said, in my view, they need to do something else to close off and create a more safe area for themselves here. If their intention is to stay, they need to close some space to the west. That's just my thinking.
One huge issue that Russia has right now is their transportation vehicles are getting eaten alive. So there's a lot of reports coming out from the soldiers who are there, who are saying like they literally have no transport vehicles anymore. They've lost every single transport vehicle that they had. All their cars, all their pickup trucks, all their loafs, all their trucks, they're all gone. And every time they get more, they get immediately destroyed. And this is an ongoing problem because now they can't evacuate the wounded, they can't evacuate the dead, they can't get ammo, they can't get food, they can't get water. They're just stuck there. And this is what happens when one side has overwhelming electronic warfare and overwhelming drones, like both simultaneously, is very bad. It's very bad for the other side. In this case, defenders, a lot of whom have minimal combat experience. The Russians are in trouble. I think once Ukraine digs in, because they want to secure what they've already taken, I think they're going to use all of these leverages that they have over Russia to continue to move. I'm pretty sure of it.
And you're onto something there, Andrew, as well. I mean, for Ukraine, it's good to have the Russians responding right now because the Russians are just going to probably throw things at the wall until it sticks. And what's easier for a trained army to do is to attack targets that are attack them before they are deployed. So if you have small convoys with transport trucks moving along a road and you have ISR on them and you attack them with drones, that is far more easier than having a battle maybe at the front lines down in Donetsk. So that is also one good, point with this incursion. You're forcing the Russians to respond, and you will have an easier time to inflict casualties since they have to move more openly and not in a planned way.
So this is actually a quite good question from Volcano, which we should have brought this up, I think, but thank you, Volcano. Putin, apparently, there are reports that Putin wants the FSB to handle the defense in Kursk and pressuring back the Ukrainians. And could this tell us that they can't or don't want to pull forces from Donetsk since they are under the command of the MOD, Gerasimov? I want to say that maybe Putin doesn't trust Lapin and Gerasimov, but that's just my theory.
Well, they've already pulled guys from the Kharkiv, and they tried sending them to Kursk, and their convoy was destroyed. So,
and
maybe next time.
That also addresses a question from Thierry. Is there a direct impact on the strength of the Russian offensive in Donetsk sector?
Well, not yet, but maybe soon. Who knows? I think they'll pull from Kharkiv first. I think they would have eventually pulled out of Kharkiv anyway, because it just wasn't going to work, and it's never going to work, and it's just a waste of resources. So you may as well pull them out and throw them at Kursk. But the problem is getting to Kursk. When your enemy has this overwhelming drone power, plus the Gimlers and whatnot, it's easier said than done to get your forces there. And they've pulled up a bunch of convoys, and each of the convoys has been destroyed. So they're going to have to stop using convoys. They're going to have to split up and move in smaller numbers. But moving in smaller numbers doesn't really help you against the drones, because it's probably, like, against drones, it might actually be better to travel in big numbers because there's only so many drones. And if you keep driving, you might be okay. So But these smaller convoys, you might get overwhelmed. Like if you're driving 5 trucks and there's 10 drones, you're gonna have a bad time.
So your solution to the drone problem, Andrew, if I heard you right, is just throw too many bodies at it, and the drones will hit their kill limit.
Yeah, it's happened before. I don't know if you saw that. There's this giant convoy. I can't even remember where it was, but there was a giant convoy. It had to have been like 30 trucks or something, and for some reason, the drone operators attacked it before the Gimlers did, because they did fire Gimlers at it. But the drone crew hit it first. They took out like 2 trucks, and then all the other trucks just got off the road and drove in random directions. Like everybody like go in a different direction. And when the Gimlers got there, it didn't do anything. And the drones like hunted down and took out a few, but most of the trucks got away.
Yep. So not moving in convoy is definitely going to slow down reinforcements. It sounds a little bit strange because military convoys are actually very slow moving together, but logistically wise, it's a lot faster to bring in big amounts of material and personnel with a convoy. But you put the whole battalion or the unit at enormous risk while moving in a convoy. So they have to choose. The dilemma is, are we going to try and bring in big forces quickly and risk them being taken out, and also maybe manage to deploy larger forces to push that back the Ukrainian offensive quickly? Or are we going to basically accept that Ukraine has an advantage and slowly feed the front, but in a more secure way? I think that's a dilemma that the Ukrainians have really pushed onto the Russians, which they didn't prepare for at all.
Yeah, I think. Does anyone have any final thoughts on the Kursk stuff?
Well, people should be skeptical towards the news that they see in the media, because a lot of it is from Russian sources right now. A lot of it can be verified. But the Ukrainians are very wisely keeping operational security very tight. And it's also very impressive how they managed, even though there has been some leaks that didn't necessarily impact so much the offensive, I think. Actually, maybe the other way around, but they're trying to shut down as much info as possible. It's very evident, or else we would have seen a lot more material and footage from this offensive already.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the InfoSec thing. And I would say too, like you said, a lot of the media reports are coming from Russian sources. And a lot of that comes down to, like Erlend was saying, like the Ukrainians are doing such a good job with InfoSec that there's not a lot of information coming from them. So what that means is the media is like, well, it's a big story, we want information. And the Russians are providing some kind of information so we can report on it. And I think also like pro-Ukraine Twitter has that same dilemma, right? Like they're desperate for content, or at least like the big accounts are desperate for content. Like they know this is a big deal, but the Ukrainian side isn't telling them anything for security reasons, which is good. So they wind up just like speculating or parroting Russian stuff that they think might be like good enough, or like just making stuff up. I mean, so you're going to see a lot of like, I don't know, like bad information from the again, not the Ukrainian military, but like the pro-Ukraine social media side of things. So I would just take like Erlend said, just take everything with kind of a grain of skepticism and say, well, am I seeing like surrounding information that supports that? Or is this like a lone random fact? I wouldn't look at one photo and be like, that's what Ukraine's doing right now in Kursk, right? I would look at a collection of information from a lot of different directions. And if it's all saying the same thing, you're probably on track. And we'll do our best to sort through it. Anything else you want to say about that, Erlend?
No, that's good. I mean, even the Ukrainian Telegram pages are full of screenshots of Russian Telegram, and so that yeah.
That's what happened in the last offensive, right? Like Ukraine is very good when they need to be about information security, and in the absence of information, you're going to just see rumors and speculation and Russian sources. That's just kind of that's what happens. Like in a vacuum, the rumor mill keeps grinding no matter what, right?
I'm gonna give this to Andrew because it's baseball related. Is this the baseball pickle move against Russian reserves and logistics? Keep the tanks and men in the highways moving from one place to another and out of the front lines.
Yeah. I guess so. I don't know how to answer that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to answer it and give the reasons for why you can compare this, so the audience can understand.
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know what a baseball pickle is. Well, I don't.
For people who don't know, in his past life, Andrew did baseball statistics before he started doing Ukraine war statistics.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, what I wanted to say is that it's actually crazy how much Tochnyi is controlling the info space right now. Because if you go through, we're basically the main source of news right now. Because the lovely lad is putting out his thing. I have my map, and between those two things, like that's like all the news on Telegram. it's actually kind of funny because you're seeing like the Russian mill bloggers quote it now. They're just like, I don't know, dude. It's weird.
This is totally true. Like Andrew, I've seen Andrew do this on social media as an experiment. He'll say, "I'm not going to update today," and watch Telegram. They're not going to update, and they don't. Like they wait for Andrew, and then they just copy him.
Yeah, and now they're copying Lovely Lad and his Twitter threads. So,
yeah, we have a new guy, and he is busy now because he's basically digging into this stuff, and I recommend his Twitter threads. They have pretty good indications of what is going on the battlefield, and yeah, they're going around and moving through the info space, also on some FSB Russian pages and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 2. Do you have any final thoughts? I'll do the telegraph thing now.
No, it's all been said. I'm just hoping for the best and for the armed forces of Ukraine. And I'm actually just want to say I'm really impressed by them so far. So I hope there's more to come.
Oh, that's what you meant by baseball pickle. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in baseball, a pickle is when the base runner gets trapped and the fielders are trying to tag him out. And the runner is basically trying to force the fielders to make as many defensive moves as possible in the hopes that they will commit an error and the base runner will advance. So it's basically your last option before you give up and lose. So that's a pickle.
I see. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Okay, so I think we'll maybe wrap it up here, Erlend. I think we'll close out by saying, of course, follow Andrew. Andrew, as we mentioned, is doing absolute crazy amount of updates on what's going on in Kursk, along with Gick and like everyone in what we affectionately call the basement. So please, subscribe to Andrew. That's where all those updates will be. And yeah, we thank Gick and Andrew and their crew for all the hard work they do, like geolocating everything. As Erlend said, check out Lovely Lad on Twitter. We tried to get him on stream, but as he said, he was like, "I'm busy right now." So we'll try to get him on maybe next week or some other time. But check him out. He's been doing really good. I guess you call them Orbats, or like little update charts like that show the position of the different units and stuff. And yeah, they've been getting a lot of traction, as Andrew said. So check him out, Lovely Lad on Twitter.
One comment. So Andrew did a really, really good stream with Gick. I was there too, but it was mainly Gick who did a fantastic rundown of the first 5 or 4 days of this operation, and I recommend to check out Andrew's latest stream. And Geek was the star of the show, I would say, in that broadcast. And he is also really good to follow it on Twitter right now, because he's focusing a lot on the Kursk offensive and collaborating with other geolocators. So yeah, follow him on Twitter. Is it Geek1893? Yeah, Geek GIK 1893 on Twitter. I'll shut up now.
Oh yeah, no problem. I was looking for also Lovely Lads, but I'm too much of a boomer to find it. Yeah, so check those accounts out. We think they do really good work. Like I'm trying to give people like places to go for like really solid information about Kursk that's like sort of conservative. They're not just going to run away with random rumors or just retweet stuff that's not confirmed. And like both of those are really good. Yeah, as Erlend said, Andrew did a stream recently and Gick that's really good, worth checking out. So go to Andrew's channel, Andrew Perpetua. And then, yeah, if you could, please subscribe to Tochnyi. We broadcast every week. This is our weekly stream at 2100 Kyiv. We also do our best to, if we ever have any, special events or interviews or things like that, we, like earlier this week, because of the Kursk stuff, we did an impromptu stream that wasn't scheduled. So thanks for the people who showed up for that. So yeah, just subscribe, and that'll at least let you know if we're ever going to do anything in addition to the weekly stuff. So yeah, subscribe for more news and updates and accurate information about Ukraine. Tochnyi means accurate. We have a commitment to accuracy here. That's what we try to do. Yeah, we are just a bunch of volunteers that look for analysis and data on the Russian invasion of Ukraine that we can accurately report to the public and dispel any misinformation or rumors or things like that. So thanks everyone for tuning in this week. We really appreciate our audience coming in and checking us out and supporting us. Thanks to our panel. Thanks so much to Andrew and 122 for stopping in and taking some time out from their busy schedules. Thanks as always to Colby for being here to answer any questions if he's ever summoned. He just does some work in the background, so always appreciate that. And of course, thanks to Erlend and Bionade also for helping out. And then I hate to thanks to Germinate to Ukraine also for his segment. I hate to start naming people when I thank people like this, because I know I'm going to forget like one person, and they'll feel bad. But I think I got everyone. So yeah, thanks to our panel for awesome contributions. I have such respect for everyone at Tochnyi and all the work they do. And it's always such a privilege to like share and present all that stuff to our audience. So yeah, thanks to the panel. Thanks to our, just the Tochnyi, everyone at Tochnyi for working real hard to produce the stream and to produce all the research we do. So yeah, we'll see everyone next week, and Slava Ukraini.
Smert Voraham.